"Heal me then," Victor Langford said, striking a silver cane against the marble floor hard enough for every donor in the ballroom to hear. $1 million if you can do it, boy. Noah Carter stood beneath the chandeliers of the Meridian Grand Hotel in Atlanta, wearing a faded blue shirt, polished but worn shoes, and a jacket his grandmother had mended twice at the sleeve. In his hands was a small brown notebook filled with drawings of bones, muscles, breathing patterns, pulse points, posture lines, and careful notes written in pencil. He was 12 years old. He was black. He was quiet. And in that room full of surgeons, hospital executives, real estate donors, private nurses, and reporters, quiet looked like weakness to people who had already decided he did not belong. The room laughed. Not everyone, but enough. Victor Langford laughed loudest. He was 58, rich enough to have a hospital wing named after him, proud enough to mention it before dessert, and sick enough to hide the tremor in his right hand by gripping a silver cane. Beside him stood his private doctor, Alan Price, and his perfect assistant, Martin Vale, who held a leather medication pouch like a priest holding scripture. Noah did not smile. He looked at Victor Kane, then his shaking wrist, then the sweat gathering under his collar, then the glass of mineral water Martin had just placed in his hand. Noah said, "Sir, you do not need a miracle. You need to stop taking whatever is making your body fight itself." The laughter thinned. Martin looked at Noah too quickly. Dr. Price frowned. Victor lifted the glass to his mouth, amused and angry at the same time. Within 11 minutes, the millionaire who mocked Noah would be on the floor gasping for breath while 20 trained adults argued around him. Within 14 minutes, Noah would point to a hidden patch under Victor's cuff that no one in the room had checked. And within 20 minutes, the silver cane, the water glass, the medication pouch, and a deleted message on Martin's phone would begin to reveal that Victor Langford was not only ill. He was being made weak by someone close enough to call it care. But before all of that, Noah only lowered his notebook and said one more thing. "Please, do not drink from that glass." Victor smiled. Then he drank anyway. The ballroom at the Meridian Grand looked like money trying to look generous. White flowers towered above each table. Gold name cards rested beside crystal glasses. A string quartet played near the west wall. A large blue banner behind the stage read, "St. Aurelia Medical Foundation Annual Hope Gala." Under the banner, the words, "Community Care" had been printed in silver letters, though very few people in the room had ever waited 4 hours in a free clinic or chosen between medicine and groceries. At 7:36 in the evening, cameras flashed while Victor Langford entered through the main doors. The crowd parted without being asked. That was what money did for him. It opened space before his body reached it. Victor wore a black tuxedo, a white pocket square, and a face trained to look amused by everyone except the people who bored him. His cane was silver at the top, carved with the Langford family crest. It was supposed to look elegant. It was also supposed to distract from the fact that his right leg had been unreliable for months. Beside him walked Rebecca Langford, his daughter. She was 32, calm in public, tired around the eyes, and the only person in the building who looked at Victor like he was not a donor, not a headline, not an estate, not a company board vote, but a father. On Victor's other side stood Martin Vale. Martin was 40, clean-shaven, neatly dressed, and so smooth that most people confuse smoothness with loyalty. He carried Victor's phone, schedule, medication pouch, special electrolyte drops, water bottle, and emergency contact folder. He knew when Victor had last eaten. He knew which doctors had called. He knew which board members wanted a meeting. He knew which papers had been moved from Victor's home office to the company legal vault. He knew too much. That was why no one questioned him. Dr. Alan Price followed them, speaking into Victor's ear about pacing himself before the donor remarks. Victor barely listened. "I am not made of glass, Alan. No one said you are," Dr. Price answered. "Then stop looking at me like I may crack." Rebecca touched her father's arm. "Dad, please." Victor softened for half a second, only for her. Then the photographers called his name, and the softness vanished. Across the ballroom, near table 22, Noah Carter stood beside his grandmother, Evelyn. Evelyn Carter had worked 31 years in rehabilitation care before arthritis bent 2 of her fingers and retirement forced her home earlier than she wanted. She had helped factory workers learn to grip again after injuries. She had helped stroke patients relearn steps. She had helped children breathe through panic after accidents. She had never called herself a healer. She called herself someone who listened with her hands and watched with her whole heart. Noah had grown up beside that work. He had sat in waiting rooms while Evelyn helped neighbors with stiff shoulders. He had watched her notice when a patient lied about pain because they could not afford another visit. He had watched her place a chair beside someone before their knees gave out. He had learned that bodies rarely betray people without warning. Bodies whisper first. That was written on page 1 of his notebook. Evelyn had written it there for him after he turned 9. Tonight, she wore a dark green dress and flat black shoes. She had been invited because St. Aurelia Hospital was honoring retired community health workers who had served the old neighborhood rehabilitation program before funding cuts closed it. Her name was printed on the program in small letters near the bottom. Evelyn Carter, former rehabilitation specialist, community service honoree. Noah had not wanted to come. The Meridian Grand made him nervous. Its lobby floors were so polished that he felt guilty stepping on them. The people at the gala spoke as if every sentence had been washed before leaving their mouths. His shirt was clean, but old. His shoes were shined, but cracked near the sole. He could feel eyes stopping on him, then sliding away. "Grandma," he whispered, "maybe I should wait outside." Evelyn looked down at him. "Why? People are staring. Let them learn their eyes are still working." Noah almost smiled. Evelyn touched his notebook. "You are not here to prove you are rich. You are here to remember that care belongs in every room, even the rooms that forget it." Noah nodded, but his stomach stayed tight. At 7:48, a nurse from St. Aurelia stood near the drink table rubbing her shoulder. She was older, maybe in her 60s, and trying to hide pain behind a polite smile. Noah noticed her left shoe had a slightly thicker sole than the right. He noticed she was standing with most of her weight on one hip. He noticed her shoulder was not the beginning of the problem. It was the place where the rest of the problem had started shouting. He didn't speak at first. Evelyn always said permission came before help. So Noah stepped closer and said, "Ma'am, may I ask a question?" The nurse looked down, surprised. "Of course. Does your shoulder hurt worse when you stand a long time?" She blinked. "How did you know that? You keep leaning away from your left foot. It makes your right shoulder lift like it is trying to hold you up." The nurse looked at her feet. "My left knee has been sore. I suppose I've been favoring it." Noah opened his notebook and showed a simple drawing of a body line from ankle to hip to shoulder. "My grandma says pain sometimes travels before it introduces itself." The nurse laughed softly. "Your grandma sounds wise." "She is." Evelyn pretended not to hear, but Noah saw her smile. The nurse shifted her feet the way Noah suggested, then sat for a moment in a nearby chair. Her face eased. "That is better." A nearby resident doctor noticed. "Did the kid just diagnose you?" Noah shook his head quickly. "No, sir, I did not diagnose anything. I only noticed how she was standing." That should have ended quietly. It did not. Victor Langford heard the laughter around the nurse. He was standing with 3 donors near the stage, holding the glass Martin had prepared. He hated being the second center of attention. He hated weakness even more. And recently, weakness had followed him like a shadow. His right hand trembled again. He pressed it harder against the cane. Martin leaned close. "Your water, sir." Victor took the glass. Rebecca watched. What did Martin add? "Electrolyte drops," Martin said smoothly. "Dr. Price approved hydration support." Dr. Price, who had been speaking with a cardiologist, nodded without looking closely. "Standard support." Noah saw Martin thumb cover the small amber bottle as he slipped it back into the leather pouch. He saw Rebecca frown. He saw Victor lift the glass, then pause because a sharp spasm crossed his neck. And he saw Martin place one hand lightly on Victor's elbow, not with concern exactly, but with control. Noah watched too long. Martin noticed. His eyes met Noah's eyes, cold, flat. Then Martin smiled. That was the first warning. Victor turned toward the nurse. "What is this I hear?" The resident doctor chuckled. This young man noticed Nurse Delaney's posture. Victor looked down at Noah. "Young man," he said it like a joke. Noah held the notebook tighter. "Yes, sir." Victor's eyes moved from the old shoes to the mended sleeve. "And are you part of the entertainment tonight?" A few people smiled. Evelyn's face hardened. Noah answered quietly, "No, sir. A student tour, perhaps." Evelyn stepped in. "He is my grandson." Victor glanced at her name badge. "Evelyn Carter, community honoree." "Ah," Very good. He is learning from Grandma then. Some guests laughed, unsure whether they were supposed to. Victor turned back to Noah. So what are you, young man? A doctor? A therapist? A miracle worker? Noah said, No, sir. Then why are you correcting nurses in a room full of professionals? I was not correcting her. Victor leaned on the cane. You were explaining her body to her. Noah looked at the nurse. Only after she allowed me to ask. Victor smiled wider. Polite. That is something. Dr. Price gave a short laugh, trying to smooth the moment. Children are curious. Victor did not stop. Tell me then, curious child, what else can you see? Can you see my pain too? The circle around them grew larger. People loved tension when it did not threaten them. Noah looked at Evelyn. She gave the smallest shake of her head. Do not perform. That was what it meant. But Victor did not let the silence breathe. No answer. I thought so. Noah lowered his eyes. Victor lifted the cane and tapped it again on the marble. You know, this hospital has some of the best specialists in the country. I have paid for tests you cannot pronounce. Evelyn said, Mr. Langford, my grandson meant no disrespect. Victor looked at her. Then he should not pretend expertise. Noah looked up. I'm not pretending. Everything changed. The sentence was not loud, but it was clear. Victor turned fully toward him. Excuse me. Noah swallowed. His heart beat hard, but his voice stayed steady because Evelyn had taught him that fear could stand beside truth without taking its place. I am not a doctor. I do not heal people. I just watch. Sometimes the body tells the truth before people do. The nurse stopped smiling. Rebecca looked at Noah more carefully. Martin's hand tightened around the medication pouch. Victor laughed. The body tells the truth. That is charming. Noah said, It is what my grandmother taught me. Victor leaned closer. Then let your grandmother teach you humility. The words struck Evelyn harder than they struck Noah. Her face stayed still, but Noah saw her fingers curl. Victor lifted his glass. You want to talk about bodies? Look at mine. I've had private scans, blood tests, nerve studies, cardiac panels, specialists from Boston and Geneva, and one very expensive doctor standing 5 feet away. But perhaps all I needed was a boy with a pencil notebook. The laughter came again, sharper now. Dr. Price looked uncomfortable, but he did not stop it. Rebecca said, Dad? Victor ignored her. He pointed at Noah with the cane. Heal me then. $1 million if you can do it. Right here. Right now. The circle erupted. Someone said, Best donation challenge of the night. Another said, Let the boy earn his scholarship. Noah's face burned. He had been laughed at before. At school when his lunch was too small, at the clinic when someone asked if he was waiting for a parent who understood the forms, at the apartment office when the manager spoke slowly to Evelyn as if poverty made hearing harder. But this was different. This was a ballroom full of people watching a rich man turn a child into a dare. Evelyn stepped forward. Enough. Victor looked at her. I am raising the stakes for charity. No, Evelyn said. You are using money to make a child small. The room went quiet. Victor's face reddened. For a second, Noah thought he might shout. Instead, Victor smiled the way powerful men smile when they are angry but still being watched. Your grandmother has spirit, Noah said. She has more than that. Victor's eyes snapped back to him. Noah opened his notebook, then closed it again. He did not need the drawings. He could already see too much. Your right hand shakes more after you drink from that glass. The room changed. Dr. Price frowned. Victor looked down at his hand. Noah continued. Your left shoulder is higher when you stand, but your right foot drags when you turn. Your collar is wet, but the room is cool. Your breathing gets shorter when Mr. Vale gives you the pouch. Martin said smoothly. That is enough. Noah looked at him. And you keep hiding the labels. Martin smiled. Labels for prescribed medication are not your concern. Noah answered, If they are prescribed, why do you cover them? Rebecca turned toward Martin. What labels? Martin gave her a calming look. Miss Langford, the boy is confused. Noah looked at Victor. Sir, please do not drink from that glass. Victor stared at him. The boy had crossed a line. A poor child had told a millionaire what not to do in front of the donors, whose respect Victor fed on. Dr. Price stepped in. Noah, is it? You should step back now. Noah did not move. Sir, please. Victor lifted the glass higher. This one. Noah nodded. Yes. Victor's eyes glittered. You think my water is dangerous? I think something is wrong with what was added to it. Martin gave a quiet laugh. This is absurd. Victor looked around the room, enjoying the moment again. Well then, if I survive the water, do I keep the million? More laughter. Rebecca said, Dad, do not. But Victor had already decided the room belonged to him. He raised the glass toward Noah like a toast, to the young healer. Then he drank. 3 seconds passed. Nothing happened. Victor smiled. 5 seconds. The donors laughed with relief. 7 seconds. Victor lowered the glass. Then his smile twitched. Noah saw it. The right side of Victor's neck tightened first. Then the fingers around the cane locked. Then his breathing caught halfway in his chest. Dr. Price noticed too late. Victor, are you all right? Victor tried to answer. No sound came. The glass slipped from his hand and shattered against the marble. Mineral water spread in a thin line toward Noah's shoes. The smell rose faintly. Bitter, medicinal, wrong. Victor Kane hit the floor next. His knees buckled. Rebecca screamed, Dad! Everything froze. Then chaos broke open. Dr. Price rushed forward. 2 cardiologists from Table 9 stood at once. A surgeon pushed back his chair so hard it fell. Guests scattered from the broken glass. Martin reached for Victor's medication pouch. Noah saw the movement. He shouted, Stop! Do not give him anything from that bag. Dr. Price snapped, Get that child back. Evelyn grabbed Noah's shoulder. Noah, wait. But Noah was staring at Victor's wrist. When Victor fell, his right sleeve had shifted just enough. Beneath the cuff, partly hidden under the watchband, was a small beige medication patch on the inside of his wrist. Noah had seen patches before. Evelyn had taught him never to touch medication that was not his, never to guess, never to pretend. But she had also taught him this. If something new appears before the body changes, tell the person with authority where to look. Noah pointed. Check his wrist. Dr. Price ignored him. Noah shouted louder, Check his wrist before you give him more medicine. Rebecca heard. She dropped beside her father and pulled back his sleeve. The patch came fully into view. Dr. Price stopped. His face changed. Martin went pale. Rebecca looked up. Dr. Price, did you prescribe this? Dr. Price stared at the patch. No. The word was small, but it cut through the ballroom louder than Victor Kane. Martin stepped back. Noah pointed to the broken glass. And the water smells like the same pouch. Martin said, He is a child. He does not know what he is saying. Noah looked at him. Then why are you scared? No one laughed now. No one laughed now. The ballroom that had been full of soft jokes only seconds earlier had turned into a room of frozen faces. Crystal glasses stood untouched. White flowers shook slightly on the tables as people rushed past them. The string quartet near the west wall had stopped playing, but one violinist still held her bow in the air, as if even her hand did not know what to do next. Victor Langford lay on the marble floor with one hand pressed against his chest and the other twisted near the broken glass. His silver cane had rolled beneath table 4. Mineral water spread across the floor in a thin, shining line, and from it came a bitter smell Noah Carter could not name, but could not ignore. Rebecca Langford knelt beside her father. Dr. Alan Price stared at the small beige patch on Victor's wrist. I did not prescribe this, he said. The words cut through the room. Martin Vale took one step back. Only one. But Noah saw it. Noah always saw the first step people took when truth came too close. Evelyn Carter kept one hand on Noah's shoulder. Her fingers were gentle, but firm. She knew her grandson. She knew his mind could move toward danger faster than his body understood the cost. Noah, she whispered. Breathe. He did. In through the nose, out slow. Again, that was how she had trained him, not to become a miracle worker, not to become arrogant, not to run into rooms acting like he knew more than people who had studied for years. She had trained him to listen. Long before Victor Langford mocked him in front of doctors, donors, and cameras, Noah had learned that pain often spoke quietly before it screamed. That morning, at 6:21, Noah had woken on a folding cot in the small apartment he shared with Evelyn on Campbellton Road in southwest Atlanta. The radiator clicked near the wall. Rain tapped the kitchen window. The apartment smelled of oatmeal, peppermint tea, and the menthol cream Evelyn rubbed into her hands when the weather made her joints stiff. Beside Noah cot was his brown notebook. It had started as a school composition book, but now it was full of drawings and notes. Bones, muscles, breathing patterns, pulse points, posture lines, simple reminders written in careful pencil. Page 1. Bodies whisper before they scream. Page 2. Ask permission before touching anyone. Page 3. Pain is information, not weakness. Page 4. A person is not a puzzle. A person is a person first. Evelyn had written that last line herself. Noah opened the notebook while his grandmother moved slowly in the kitchen. He heard the extra pause between her left step and right step. "Grandma, your knee is bad today." Evelyn turned from the stove. "Good morning to you too." "Good morning." "But it is bad." "A little. You're turning your foot out again." She looked down and smiled. "So I am." "You told Miss Doris that makes the hip work too hard." "I did. Then you should listen to yourself." Evelyn laughed softly and lowered herself into a chair. "That is the hardest patient I have." Noah took the spoon from her and stirred the oatmeal. He had lived with Evelyn since he was small. His mother had left when he was 3. His father came and went until one day he simply stopped coming. Evelyn never made long speeches about it. She just stayed. She paid rent late when she had to. She stretched groceries. She kept school forms in a blue folder. She taught Noah that love was not always loud. Sometimes it was the person who was still there in the morning. For 31 years, Evelyn had worked in rehabilitation care at St. Aurelia Hospital and later in the community program connected to it. She helped people relearn ordinary things that healthy people forget are miracles. Holding a spoon, standing from a chair, lifting a cup, walking after a stroke, breathing after fear. Noah grew up beside that work. He sat in waiting rooms while Evelyn showed neighbors how to move without making pain worse. He watched her check the height of a chair before asking someone to stand. He watched her notice when a man said he was fine, but gripped the table edge with white fingers. One evening, after Evelyn helped a warehouse worker whose hand had been crushed, Noah asked why she spoke to him so gently. Evelyn said, "Because his hand changed. It did not become useless." Noah wrote that down. Changed is not useless. Another time, a neighbor came with shoulder pain. Everyone thought the problem was the shoulder. Evelyn watched the woman walk, sit, breathe, and hold her grocery bag. Then she asked about the hip. The woman cried because no one else had asked. Afterward, Noah asked, "How did you know?" Evelyn washed her hands at the sink and said, "I didn't know. I listened until the body told me what to ask next." That became Noah's school. Not magic, not guessing, careful eyes. Clean hands, permission, humility. When he started noticing things faster, Evelyn became stricter. "Helping someone is not a crown," she told him one night after he looked too proud of himself. "Yes, ma'am, you are not a doctor. I know. You are not a miracle worker. I know." "Then what are you?" Noah thought for a long moment. "A person who notices." Evelyn smiled. "That is enough if you use it with respect." So when St. Aurelia Hospital invited Evelyn to the annual Hope Gala at the Meridian Grand, Noah felt proud for her. Then he saw the words on the invitation. Black tie dinner, donor recognition, press attendance. His pride turned into dread. "Grandma, I do not have clothes for that. We will make what you have clean. That is not the same." "No," Evelyn said, "but it is enough. People will stare. Let them learn their eyes still work." He almost smiled. Before they left, Evelyn ironed his faded blue shirt and stitched the sleeve of his jacket where the seam had opened again. Noah polished his old shoes until the cracked leather shone in places. Evelyn put on her dark green dress and pinned a small silver brooch near her shoulder. At the door, she handed Noah his notebook. "Should I bring it?" "Yes." "Why?" "Because it reminds you who taught you." Then she touched his face with both hands. "You are not going there to show off. You are not going there to argue with doctors. You are not going there to be ashamed. You are going because care belongs in every room, even the rooms that forget it." Noah nodded. But his stomach stayed tight the whole bus ride. The Meridian Grand rose above Peachtree Street with polished stone columns and doors so wide Noah felt small before he even entered. At the ballroom entrance, a volunteer looked at Noah and asked if he was part of a youth performance. That was the first cut. At coat check, a woman smiled at Evelyn but looked confused when Noah handed over his mended jacket. That was the second. Inside the ballroom, Noah saw watches bright under cuffs, shoes that looked untouched by sidewalks, and a wall display showing the future Langford Neurological Recovery Wing. Victor Langford's name was everywhere. Evelyn's name was near the bottom of the program, Community Service Honoree. Noah read it twice because he was proud. At 7:48, Nurse Delaney rubbed her shoulder near the drink table. Noah noticed her left shoe had a thicker sole, her weight sat mostly on one hip, and her right shoulder kept lifting as if it had been asked to carry the whole body. He remembered permission. "Mom, may I ask a question?" The nurse smiled. "Of course. Does your shoulder hurt worse when you stand a long time?" She blinked. "How did you know that? You keep leaning away from your left foot. It makes your right shoulder lift." The nurse sat down and adjusted the way she placed her feet. Her face eased. "That is better." A resident doctor laughed. "Did the kid just diagnose you?" Noah shook his head quickly. "No, sir. I only noticed how she was standing. That should have ended quietly." It did not. Victor Langford heard. He had been standing near the stage with donors around him, holding a glass Martin had prepared. His right hand trembled, but he hid it by gripping his silver cane. Martin stood close with the leather medication pouch. Dr. Price was nearby. Rebecca watched her father with tired worry. Victor could not stand weakness, especially his own. He turned toward Noah. "What is this? A child therapist?" A few guests laughed. Noah lowered his eyes. Evelyn stepped closer. He was only being kind. Victor looked at Noah's old shoes, then at the notebook. "Kindness is good. Pretending expertise is not." Noah looked up. "I am not pretending." The room changed. Victor smiled. "Then what are you?" Noah's voice stayed quiet. "A person who notices." Victor lifted his cane and tapped it on the marble. "Then notice me. I have paid for scans, blood tests, nerve studies, cardiac panels, and doctors you cannot even name. But perhaps all I needed was a boy with a pencil notebook." Laughter moved through the circle. Rebecca said, "Dad, please." Victor ignored her. "Heal me then. $1 million if you can do it. Right here." Noah's face burned. He wanted to disappear. For one moment, he was back in the school cafeteria with boys laughing at his small lunch, back at the clinic desk where someone asked if an adult could read the forms for him, back at the apartment office where the manager spoke slowly to Evelyn as if being poor made her foolish. But Evelyn's voice was inside him. "Do not shrink." Noah looked at Victor, then he saw the details. The hand tremor after the drink, the sweat under the collar though the room was cool, the right foot dragging only after Martin came close, the way Martin covered the label on the small amber bottle, the way he pulled Victor's cuff down when Noah looked too long. "Sir," Noah said, "please do not drink from that glass," Martin answered before Victor could. "That is enough." Noah looked at him. "If it is safe, why hide the label?" The laughter thinned. Rebecca turned. "What label?" Martin smiled smoothly. "Miss Langford, the boy is confused." Victor lifted the glass. "You think my water is dangerous. I think something is wrong with what was added to it." Dr. Price stepped in. "Noah, step back now." Noah did not move. "Please." Victor raised the glass like a toast to the young healer. Then he drank. 3 seconds passed. Nothing. 5 seconds. A few guests laughed again. 7 seconds. Victor's smile twitched. His neck tightened first. Then his fingers locked around the cane. His breathing caught. The glass slipped from his hand and shattered against the marble. Rebecca screamed, "Dad!" Everything froze. Then chaos broke open. Dr. Price rushed forward. 2 other doctors stood from table 9. Guests backed away from the broken glass. Martin reached for the leather pouch. Noah saw it. "Stop. Do not give him anything from that bag," Dr. Price snapped. "Get that child back." But Noah was looking at Victor's wrist. When Victor fell, the cuff had shifted. Under the watch band was a small beige medication patch. Noah pointed. "Check his wrist." Dr. Price ignored him. Noah's voice rose. "Check his wrist before you give him more medicine." Rebecca heard. She pulled back the cuff. The patch appeared fully. Dr. Price stopped. "Did you prescribe this?" Rebecca asked. "No," he said. The room went silent. Martin stepped back. Noah pointed to the broken glass, "And the water smells like the pouch." Martin said, "He is a child. He does not know what he is saying." Noah looked at him. "Then why are you scared?" That was when the room stopped seeing Noah as entertainment. Dr. Price put on gloves and removed the patch carefully. A nurse sealed it in a clear evidence bag. Another nurse collected the glass fragments and liquid sample from the marble. Victor's breathing was still rough, but after the patch came off and no medicine from Martin's pouch was given, the worst spasm began to ease. Dr. Price checked Victor's pulse again. His face changed. Rebecca looked at him. "What?" Dr. Price did not answer right away. Noah did not feel proud. He felt cold. Being right about danger does not feel good when someone is lying on the floor. Martin still held the pouch. Noah saw his thumb slip under the flap. "Please, do not let Mr. Vale take that bag away." Martin snapped. "You little troublemaker." Evelyn straightened. "Do not speak to my grandson that way." Martin looked around and realized everyone had heard him. He forced his voice soft. "I'm under stress. Mr. Langford Health is my responsibility." Rebecca stood. "Then hand me the bag." Martin held it closer. "Your father entrusted me with his medical management." Rebecca held out her hand. "And I am his daughter." Dr. Price said, "Give her the pouch, Martin." For 1 second, Martin did not move. That second told the room what proof had not yet finished saying. Then he handed it over. Rebecca gave it to Dr. Price, who opened it on a clean side table. Inside were prescription bottles, a folded schedule, 3 sealed beige patches, and a small amber dropper bottle with most of the label peeled away. Dr. Price picked up the packet. "I do not know this patch," Martin said. "It came from the specialist." "Which specialist?" "The one in Zurich." Dr. Price looked at him. "There is no Zurich specialist on the active care team." Rebecca covered her mouth. Noah stood beside Evelyn, clutching the notebook to his chest. He remembered page 32. When symptoms do not match the story, check what changed. The drink had changed. The patch had changed. The person closest to Victor had changed the story every time. At 8:10, Victor was moved into the private medical suite beside the ballroom. Rebecca ordered security to keep Martin in the corridor. Dr. Price wanted Noah to stay outside, but Rebecca looked at him and said, "He comes too. He saw what you missed." Evelyn answered before Noah could. "Only if he wants to." Rebecca softened. "Noah, will you come? You do not have to touch him. Just tell us if you notice anything else." Noah looked at Evelyn. She said, "Stay respectful. Stay honest. Do not pretend to know what you do not know." "Yes, ma'am." Inside the suite, Victor lay pale but breathing better. The patch, broken glass sample, and amber bottle were sealed in evidence bags. Dr. Price reviewed blood pressure, pulse, pupils, breathing, and the medication schedule from Martin Pouch. His hands were skilled, but his pride had cracked. "This is not the schedule I approved," he said. Rebecca looked at him. "What does that mean?" "Times have been changed, doses moved, additions written by hand. Some initials are not mine." Evelyn said softly, "Doctor, you should have checked that earlier." Dr. Price looked at her. She was not cruel. That made the truth harder to reject. Victor stirred. Rebecca leaned over him. "Dad." Victor opened his eyes halfway. "What happened? You collapsed." His gaze found Noah, the boy. Noah stood straighter. "You told me not to drink." "Yes, sir." Victor closed his eyes. I laughed. Noah did not comfort him. "Yes, sir." Victor breathed slowly. "What did you do?" Noah chose each word carefully. "I did not heal you. The doctors are treating you. I only saw something that did not fit." Victor stared at the ceiling. "What did not fit?" "The patch Dr. Price did not know about. The drink Mr. Vale gave you. The label he covered. Your hand shaking worse after you drank." Dr. Price looked at the medication schedule again. "We need toxicology, full medication reconciliation, and security footage from the ballroom and service corridor." Rebecca turned to the hotel's security director. "Secure Martin phone, laptop, office, medication records, and all messages related to my father's health." The security director nodded. Outside the suite, Martin's face lost its last trace of calm. At 8:23, Atlanta police were contacted because the incident involved possible medication tampering at a hospital foundation event. The gala murmured beyond the walls. Reporters typed. Donors whispered. The silver cane still lay under table 4. Noah stood beside Evelyn with his notebook against his chest. The richest man in the building had paid for every kind of attention, but he had almost died because no one had looked closely. Then Dr. Price unfolded the final page from Martin's schedule. His face went still. Rebecca saw it. "What is that?" Dr. Price did not answer right away. Noah looked at the page from where he stood. He could not read everything, but he saw 3 words near the bottom in sharp black ink. Capacity review meeting. And beside it was tomorrow date. Capacity review meeting. And beside it was tomorrow date. For a moment, nobody in the private medical suite moved. Victor Langford lay pale on the bed, his breathing still rough but steadier than before. Rebecca stood beside him with one hand on the blanket. Dr. Alan Price held the folded medication schedule from Martin Vale Pouch. Evelyn Carter stood near the wall with Noah beside her hand resting lightly on his shoulder. Noah did not know every legal meaning of those 3 words, capacity review meeting, but he understood faces. Rebecca's face went cold with fear. Dr. Price's face lost its pride. And through the glass door, Martin Vale looked less worried about Victor and more worried that something had been discovered too soon. Rebecca's voice was low. Read it again. Dr. Price looked at the page. Capacity review meeting, Langford Holdings, tomorrow morning at 10, supporting medical summary to be delivered by Martin Vale. Victor opened his eyes. Medical summary. His voice was weak, but the room heard it. Rebecca turned toward the door. Martin. Martin stood outside with hotel security near him. For 5 years, he had entered every room before anyone could stop him. He carried Victor's phone, medicine, schedule, water, private files, and board messages. He was used to being needed. He was used to being trusted. Now, a guard stood between him and the man he claimed to protect. Rebecca opened the door. What is this meeting? Martin lifted his hands. Miss Langford, it is only a precaution. A precaution against what? Your father has been unwell for months. The board has concerns. I arranged a review in case temporary protection became necessary. Victor stared at him. Protection. Martin leaned forward. Sir, you have had episodes. You forget calls. You become confused after pain. I was trying to keep the company stable. Victor tried to sit up. Pain stopped him. Rebecca pushed him gently back. Do not move. Victor kept his eyes on Martin. Who asked for this review? Martin paused. The board. Which board members? Martin said nothing. That silence changed the temperature in the room. Rebecca looked at the security director. His phone. Martin stepped back. That is personal property, Dr. Price said. It may contain medical communications related to an active emergency. A woman in a navy blazer entered the suite. A badge was clipped to her belt. Detective Angela Morris from Atlanta Police. She had been called by event security after the patch, the altered schedule, and the unknown bottle were sealed as possible evidence. Detective Morris looked at Martin. Mr. Vale, no one is searching you without procedure, but you are being instructed not to leave and not to alter or destroy anything related to Mr. Langford medical care. Martin smiled thinly. Detective, this entire situation began because a child made a dramatic claim. Noah lowered his eyes. Evelyn felt him shrink. She squeezed his shoulder once. Detective Morris turned to Noah. Children can still be witnesses. Then she crouched slightly, not to make him feel small, but to make the question fair. What is your name? Noah Carter. Noah, tell me only what you saw, not what you think. Only what you saw and heard. Noah took a breath. I saw Mr. Vale give Mr. Langford the glass. I saw him add drops from a small bottle and cover the label with his thumb. I saw Mr. Langford sweat and shake more after drinking. I saw Mr. Vale pull his cuff down earlier. When Mr. Langford fell, the cuff moved and I saw the patch. Dr. Price said he did not prescribe it. Detective Morris wrote it down. Anything else? Noah glanced at Martin. I saw Mr. Vale reach for the medicine pouch after Mr. Langford fell. I thought he might give him something or take something away. Martin snapped. You thought. Evelyn's voice became firm. He said thought for the part that was thought. The rest was what he saw. Detective Morris looked at Evelyn. And you are? Evelyn Carter, his grandmother, retired rehabilitation specialist, St. Aurelia Community Program, 31 years. Dr. Price looked at her differently then. Not as an old woman defending a child, as a professional who had spent her life watching bodies recover. That mattered. Rebecca faced Martin again. You said my father asked for discretion. Did he ask you to hide a capacity review from me? Martin answered smoothly. Your father did not want you burdened. Victor's voice cut through the room. Liar. Everyone turned. Victor's eyes were open now. I told you not to worry, Rebecca, unless I asked. I never told you to decide I was unfit. Martin's jaw tightened. Sir, with respect, you have not been yourself. Victor lifted one trembling hand. Stop telling me what I am. Everything froze. For months, Martin had translated Victor's pain into weakness. He had translated anger into instability. He had translated exhaustion into incapacity. He had used the language of care until it became a cage. Now, Victor heard the lock. At 8:41, St. Aurelia Compliance Officer Diane Brooks arrived with a tablet and 2 sealed evidence bags. She was small, precise, and direct. "Dr. Price, I need a medication variance report before 9:30. He nodded. Diane continued. "Incident file SAMF0871 is now open. Preserve the patch, the water sample, the dropper bottle, the pouch contents, the altered schedule, and all video from the ballroom." Noah wrote the incident number in his notebook. Diane noticed. "You take notes." Noah froze. "Yes, ma'am, I can stop." "No, keep them. Memory changes when people get scared." Noah looked at Evelyn. She nodded. Outside the suite, the gala had turned into a room of whispers. Donors who had laughed earlier now stood in clusters, speaking in low voices. Reporters watched from the back wall. Hospital staff began collecting witness names. The silver cane still lay under table 4. Small facts started coming forward. A bartender said Martin had brought Victor's own bottle of mineral water and refused the hotel service bottle. A guest from table 9 said he saw Martin switch Victor glass after Rebecca asked what had been added. A nurse said she had seen the same beige patch on Victor's wrist 2 weeks earlier during a private donor lunch. Mateo Hill, a junior event assistant, said Martin had asked which camera covered the drink station before Victor arrived. Each statement was small, but small facts can become a wall. Martin listened from the corridor and began to sweat. At 8:50, Detective Morris asked him to give a voluntary statement in the small conference room across the hall. Martin agreed too quickly. Noah watched him walk. He noticed Martin's eyes move toward the service elevator, then again, then a third time. Noah whispered, "Grandma?" Evelyn leaned down. "He's looking at the service elevator." Evelyn followed his eyes. She saw it too. She walked to Detective Morris and spoke quietly. "My grandson thinks Mr. Vale may try to leave through service elevator B. I do not know if he is right, but I trust his eyes." Detective Morris looked once at Noah, then at Martin. She spoke into her radio. "Place an officer at service elevator B and at the loading dock exit. No one connected to incident file SAMF0871 leaves with bags, phones, medications, medication materials, or documents." Martin heard enough. "This is absurd. I have cooperated." Detective Morris replied, "Then keep cooperating." At 9:03, Rebecca connected a video call with Patricia Wren, Chief Legal Officer of Langford Holdings. Patricia appeared on the medical suite monitor from the company headquarters on Lenox Road. Her face was tense. "Rebecca, I have been trying to reach your father all evening." Rebecca said, "Patricia, what is the capacity review?" Patricia closed her eyes. "You found that?" "Yes." Patricia looked toward Victor on the bed. "Victor, did you authorize Martin to schedule a board capacity review tomorrow morning?" Victor answered, "No." Patricia's voice hardened. "Then we have a serious problem." Rebecca asked, "Who requested it?" Patricia opened a secure file. "Board Finance Chair Graham Ellis requested the meeting last week." Martin attached a medical behavior summary claiming increasing disorientation, medication noncompliance, irregular decision-making, and inability to review contracts for more than 15 minutes. Victor whispered, "Graham?" Rebecca turned to Dr. Price. "Did you write a medical summary?" Dr. Price looked sick. "No." Patricia said, "There is a draft using your signature block." Dr. Price stepped closer to the screen. "Send it to legal and compliance. Do not send it to me if it is evidence." For the first time that night, he sounded less like a man protecting his pride and more like a doctor trying to stop harm. Martin was visible through the conference room glass. His hand slipped toward his jacket pocket. Noah saw it. His pocket. Detective Morris turned fast. Martin had pulled out a small second phone, not the one he had given security. His thumb moved across the screen. "Mr. Vale, stop." An officer caught his wrist before the phone could disappear. The phone slid onto the table, screen still lit. One line was visible. "He is awake." Detective Morris did not read further. She placed the phone face down. "This will be handled properly." Martin tried to smile. "Then it means nothing." Noah looked at the black surface of the conference table. The phone screen reflected faintly in it before dimming. He saw the contact name upside down. G. Ellis, Noah whispered. "Rebecca." She looked at him. The name on the screen. It was G. Ellis. Martin stared at Noah. For 1 second, the smooth assistant vanished. There was only hatred. because Noah had become the one thing Martin had not planned for. A child who noticed. Patricia Wren heard the name through the monitor. Graham Ellis. She turned to someone off-screen. Freeze document access for Graham Ellis and Martin Vale. Preserve all board files, capacity review drafts, medical attachments, signature records, and transfer documents. Notify outside counsel now. Victor closed his eyes. The pain on his face was not physical anymore. Graham Ellis had sat across from him in board meetings for 10 years. Martin Vale had stood beside him for 5. Dr. Price had treated him twice a week, and none of them had seen the whole danger. Noah had been in the room less than an hour. At 9:12, lab pickup arrived to collect the patch, water sample, amber bottle, and sealed patch packets. Diane Brooks read each evidence item aloud. Patch from Victor wrist, evidence item 1. Liquid sample from broken glass, evidence item 2. Amber dropper bottle from Martin pouches, evidence item 3. Unlabeled patch packets, evidence item 4. Altered medication schedule, evidence item 5. Capacity review note. Evidence item 6. Noah wrote one sentence beneath the list in his notebook. Do not guess. Let evidence speak. Evelyn saw it and smiled faintly. At 9:18, Victor asked for Noah. The room went quiet again. Noah stepped closer to the bed, but stopped at a respectful distance. Victor looked smaller without his cane. Not poor, not powerless, but human. I offered you $1 million to embarrass you, Victor said. Noah said nothing. Victor swallowed. Then you helped me anyway. Noah's voice was soft. You were hurting. I had just mocked you. Yes, sir. Why did you still speak up? Noah looked at Evelyn, then back at Victor. Grandma says pain does not become less real because the person carrying it is wrong. Rebecca began to cry quietly. Dr. Price looked down. Victor shut his eyes. For months, pain had made him crueler. Money had made people afraid to correct him. Power had surrounded him with agreement until truth had to come from the one person he had tried to humiliate. Dr. Price stepped forward. Noah, I owe you an apology. Noah blinked. Dr. Price continued. When you warned us, I heard your age before I heard your observation. I heard your clothes before I heard your facts. That was my failure, Evelyn said. Then let that failure change your practice. Dr. Price nodded. It will, Diane Brooks added. St. Aurelia will review emergency response policy tonight. Informal observations cannot replace medical authority, but they cannot be dismissed because the person speaking has no title. Rebecca looked at Noah. That is because of you. Noah shook his head quickly. No, ma'am, it is because something was wrong. Exactly, Rebecca said, and you did not look away. At 9:26, Martin stood in the conference room doorway, guarded but not yet arrested. His expression had become sharp. Sir, he called toward Victor, I served you faithfully. Victor turned his head, faithfully. Martin leaned forward. I managed your pain. I kept your schedule. I protected you from stress. Everyone wanted something from you, Rebecca said. You kept people from reaching him. Martin snapped. Because they made him worse. Victor asked, and what did Graham promise you? Martin froze. Patricia's voice came from the monitor. We found a draft consulting agreement, Vale Strategic Health Management, effective upon temporary executive authority transfer. Annual fee, $250,000 plus performance bonus. Rebecca stared at Martin. You were getting paid. Martin's voice rose. I was keeping the company stable. Victor whispered, by making me unstable. Martin lost control. You were already unstable. You forgot calls. You raged at staff. You missed signatures. The board needed protection from you. Victor was silent for a long moment. Maybe they did, he said. Everyone stared. Then Victor continued, but you did not protect them. You made my sickness fit your paperwork. Martin had no answer. At 9:34, Patricia sent one more file to Diane Brooks and Detective Morris. Subject line, urgent before capacity vote. Sender, Graham Ellis. Recipient, Martin Vale. Timestamp, yesterday at 11:48 at night. Patricia read only the key line. Make sure he looks unstable before tomorrow. Price will follow the chart if you control the inputs. Once Rebecca is sidelined, we move authority to the interim committee. The suite went silent. Rebecca gripped the bed rail. Dr. Price sat down as if his legs had failed. Victor turned his face away. Martin lowered his head. Noah did not understand every word about boards and authority transfers, but he understood enough. Victor Payne had been turned into a plan, Dr. Price pride had been used, Rebecca concern had been blocked, and Martin care had been a mask. Detective Morris stepped toward Martin. "Mr. Vale, you are not leaving." Martin did not speak. Noah stood beside Evelyn with his notebook open. Under the incident number, he wrote the sentence his grandmother had taught him. "Healing begins when someone finally listens." Then he looked through the glass at Martin Vale. Martin was not looking at Victor anymore. He was looking at Noah. And for the first time, the man who hid behind care understood that the smallest person in the room had become the witness he could not control. And for the first time, the man who hid behind care understood that the smallest person in the room had become the witness he could not control. Martin Vale stared at Noah through the glass wall of the conference room. Noah did not stare back for long. Evelyn had taught him that courage was not the same as challenging someone with your eyes. Sometimes courage was writing down what happened, keeping your voice steady, and letting the truth stand where anger wanted to stand. So Noah looked back at his notebook. Healing begins when someone finally listens. The sentence seemed too simple for a room full of lawyers, doctors, police officers, hospital executives, and a millionaire lying on a bed after almost being turned into proof of his own weakness. But simple things had been ignored all night: the water, the patch, the covered label, the hidden phone, the meeting scheduled for tomorrow, the boy who said stop before anyone wanted to hear him. Detective Angela Morris stood at the conference room door and spoke to Martin with calm authority. "Mr. Vale, you are being detained for questioning while we preserve evidence related to possible medication tampering, financial fraud, and coordinated interference with medical decision-making." Martin lifted his chin. "You have no proof I harmed anyone." Detective Morris did not blink. "Then evidence preservation should help you." That sentence cornered him more neatly than an accusation. Martin turned toward Victor. "Sir, tell them. Tell them I have been with you through every episode. I was the one answering calls at midnight. I was the one making sure you took your medication." Victor looked at him from the bed. Maybe that was the problem. Martin flinched. Rebecca stepped closer to her father. "Dr. Price," she said, "can he speak safely?" Dr. Alan Price checked Victor's vital signs, then nodded, briefly. "No stress." Victor gave a weak laugh. "That may be difficult." No one laughed with him, not because the line was not funny, because every person in the room now understood that Victor's stress had been managed by people who profited from making him look broken. Patricia Wren, Chief Legal Officer of Langford Holdings, remained on the monitor from the company office on Lenox Road. Behind her, two legal staff moved quickly between file cabinets and a conference table. Another screen showed frozen user access logs. Patricia spoke. "Rebecca, emergency authority protocol is ready. Victor can authorize you as temporary family representative for medical communications and corporate information review while he remains under observation. It does not transfer company control. It only prevents Martin or Graham from controlling information flow." Rebecca looked at her father. "Dad." Victor stared at the ceiling for a moment. For years he had treated control like oxygen. He held doors, he held money, he held silence around himself until silence looked like respect. Letting Rebecca hold anything for him felt like defeat. Then he looked at Noah. The boy had no title, no money, no power. But he had seen the truth because he was not trying to control the room. He was listening to it. Victor said, "Do it." Rebecca's eyes filled. "Are you sure?" Victor nodded. "I should have trusted you before I trusted people who needed me weak." Patricia recorded the verbal authorization with the hospital compliance officer Diane Brooks present. Detective Morris confirmed the time. 9:42 in the evening. That became the first official authority shift. Not a board vote, not a press statement. A father finally allowing the daughter who loved him to stand between him and the people who were using him. Martin watched from the conference room, anger tightening his face. "This is emotional manipulation," he said. "He is under medical distress. Anything he says tonight should be considered unreliable." Rebecca turned slowly. "You spent months saying he was too unstable to be questioned, and now you want that same argument to erase the first clear decision he has made all night." Martin said, "I'm protecting the company." Patricia's voice came from the monitor, sharp and cold. "No, Mr. Vale, you were preparing to sell access to it. She opened the draft consulting agreement on screen. Vail Strategic Health Management. Effective upon temporary executive authority transfer. Annual advisory fee $250,000. Performance bonus upon completion of leadership transition. Rebecca read the words aloud. Leadership transition. Victor closed his eyes. Dr. Price looked at the screen and whispered, "My God." Evelyn said quietly, "Money can make sickness useful to the wrong people." Noah wrote that down too. Martin tried one more defense. That agreement was never signed. Patricia answered, "It was scheduled for execution after tomorrow board vote. We have document metadata, created by Graham Ellis Assistant, edited by your account this morning at 6:12, stored in the restricted folder labeled Transition Risk." Martin's jaw worked. He said nothing. Silence again, but this silence did not protect him. At 9:48, Detective Morris received the first camera review from hotel security. Camera 5 showed the drink station at 7:39. Martin entered the frame with a small black case. He spoke to the bartender. The bartender pointed to the hotel mineral water. Martin shook his head and removed his own bottle from the case. He placed it on the service tray. Then he looked up toward the ceiling corner, toward the camera. Camera 7 showed Victor near the stage at 7:45. Martin stepped in beside him, blocked the view of the glass with his body, and added drops from the amber bottle. Camera 7 also showed Rebecca asking what had been added. Martin smiled and answered, "Electrolyte support." Dr. Price watched the footage with a sick face. "That is what I approved. Standard electrolyte support." Diane Brooks asked, "Did you ever inspect the bottle?" "No." "Did you personally provide it?" "No." "Did you verify the label?" "No." Each no became heavier. Dr. Price sat down. "I let his assistant become the chart." Evelyn looked at him, then changed the chart. He looked at her. She continued, "A chart should hold medical truth, not the convenience of the person standing closest." Dr. Price nodded slowly. "You were right. That was not forgiveness. It was the beginning of responsibility." At 9:54, a junior event assistant named Mateo Hill entered with a written statement. His hands shook as he gave it to Detective Morris. "I was near the drink station," he said. "I saw Mr. Vail pour something into the bottle before the event started." Martin snapped from the conference room. "You are lying." Mateo flinched. Noah saw it, the flinch of an employee who had been taught that rich anger could cost him rent. Detective Morris looked at Mateo. "Take your time." Mateo swallowed. "I did not say anything because he told me it was medical, and he said people at my level should not ask questions about private donors." Rebecca's face hardened. "People at my level." Mateo nodded. "I thought maybe I would lose the event job." Evelyn said, "Fear hires silence cheap." The room went quiet. Mateo looked ashamed. Noah looked at him and said softly, "You are saying it now." Mateo's eyes filled. Yeah, that mattered. The story was no longer only about Noah seeing what others missed. It was about a room learning how many people had seen pieces of harm and stayed quiet because power had trained them to doubt themselves. At 10:02, Patricia Wren received confirmation from Langford Holdings Information Security. Graham Ellis' account had attempted to open Victor Executive Authority folder 6 minutes after Martin's second phone was seized. Then Graham had attempted to delete 2 calendar attachments. The deletion failed because Patricia had frozen access. She put the log on screen. User Graham Ellis, action attempted deletion, file names, capacity review agenda, temporary authority recommendation, medical support summary. Price draft, timestamp 9:56 in the evening. Victor stared at the screen. Graham always told me loyalty meant hard decisions. Rebecca said, "He meant decisions that made him richer." Patricia added, "Outside counsel is preparing formal notice. The board meeting is canceled." Graham Ellis voting access is suspended pending investigation. We are also notifying Corporate Fraud Counsel and the State Securities Unit because the planned authority transfer may have affected shareholder decisions. Martin's face changed when he heard State Securities Unit. For the first time, he looked afraid of consequences larger than the hotel. Detective Morris asked him, "Would you like counsel present before further questions?" Martin did not answer. Then he said, "Yes." The smooth voice was gone. At 10:12, Victor asked everyone except Rebecca, Dr. Price, Evelyn, Noah, Patricia on monitor, Diane Brooks, and Detective Morris to step back for a moment. Martin remained visible through the glass, watched by an officer. Victor looked at Dr. Price first. "Alan." Dr. Price stood. "Yes." How many times did you accept Martin's version of my symptoms instead of asking Rebecca or me directly? Dr. Price swallowed. Too many. Why? The doctor closed his eyes. Because Martin was organized. Because you were difficult. Because he gave me neat summaries and you gave me anger. Because I mistook access for accuracy. Victor absorbed that. I paid you to be better than convenient. Dr. Price nodded. You did. I failed that duty. Diane Brooks said, St. Aurelia will conduct a physician conduct review. Any outside medical summaries tied to this matter will be audited before being used in any legal or corporate proceeding. Dr. Price said, I will cooperate fully. Victor turned to Rebecca. And you? Rebecca stiffened. I kept pushing you away because you sounded scared, Victor said. I thought fear made you weak. It made you honest. Rebecca covered her mouth. Dad. He looked away. I do not know how to fix that sentence yet. Rebecca wiped her face. Start by not taking it back. He nodded. Then Victor looked at Noah. Noah felt every adult eye return to him. He hated it, not because he was ashamed, because attention still felt too close to danger. Evelyn stepped half a step nearer. Victor's voice softened. Noah Carter. Yes, sir. You told me not to drink. I laughed. You told them to check my wrist. They ignored you. You told them not to let Martin take the pouch. You were right. Noah looked down. I was not right about everything. I just saw things. That is more than most of us did. Noah shook his head. I do not want people to think I cured you. Victor studied him. Why? Because I did not. Dr. Price and the medical team helped your body. Detective Morris is handling evidence. Miss Rebecca stopped Martin. Grandma taught me what to notice. I only said what I saw. Evelyn's eyes shone with pride. Victor was silent for a long moment. Then he said, That may be the most honest thing said in this hotel tonight. Detective Morris looked at Noah with respect. Not admiration that turns a child into a symbol. Respect. That was different. At 10:20, Graham Ellis appeared on a forced emergency board call with Patricia Wren, an outside counsel. His face filled the monitor beside Patricia. He wore a charcoal suit and spoke with rehearsed offense. Victor, thank God you are awake. This has been blown out of proportion. Victor did not answer. Graham continued. The review was for your protection. We all saw your decline. Martin was doing his duty. Patricia said, Graham, why did you send an email instructing Martin to make sure Victor looked unstable before tomorrow? Graham's face shifted. That line is being misread. Patricia read the next line. Price will follow the chart if you control the inputs. Dr. Price stood very still. Graham said, It was a poor choice of words. Rebecca stepped forward. My father collapsed tonight after drinking from a glass Martin prepared. He had a patch on his wrist his doctor did not prescribe. Martin had unlabeled patches in his pouch, an altered medication schedule, and a hidden phone with your contact on it. Graham tried to speak. Rebecca did not let him. Do not call this wording. Victor finally spoke. Graham. The board chair froze. You wanted me weak, Graham said. I wanted the company protected. Victor's voice remained low. From me. From uncertainty. Victor looked at Patricia. End his access. Already done, Patricia said. Victor continued. Call an emergency independent board review. Suspend Graham Ellis from committee duties. Preserve every communication between Graham, Martin, Dr. Price office, and any outside consultant claiming Zurich review. Patricia nodded. Done. Graham leaned toward the camera. Victor, you are making decisions under distress. Victor looked at Noah, then back at Graham. No. I have been under distress for months. Tonight, for the first time, I am making a decision with people in the room who are not trying to profit from it. Graham had no answer. The call ended with outside counsel taking over. At 10:38, Martin Vale was formally taken into custody for further questioning after the hidden phone, the email chain, and evidence of possible medication tampering established probable cause. Detective Morris did not turn it into theater. She read his rights in the corridor while hospital security blocked cameras from the ballroom. Martin looked once at Noah as the officers guided him away. Noah did not look down this time. He stood beside Evelyn. Not proud, not cruel. Standing straight was enough. Victor watched through the glass. The man who had handed him water, adjusted his cuff, controlled his calendar, and called it care, was led past the same donors who had laughed at Noah less than 3 hours earlier. No one laughed now. At 10:47, Rebecca stepped into the ballroom and faced the remaining guests, hospital leaders and reporters. Her voice trembled but did not break. My father is stable. The event is over. St. Aurelia Medical Foundation and Langford Holdings are cooperating with police, compliance, legal counsel, and independent investigators. Any recordings, photographs, or witness statements from tonight must be preserved. No one is authorized to use the image of Noah Carter or Evelyn Carter for publicity. A reporter asked, "Is the boy really the one who saved Victor Langford?" Rebecca paused. Then she answered carefully. Noah Carter noticed what adults dismissed. That matters, but do not turn him into a miracle story so the rest of us can avoid our failures. Evelyn, listening from the suite, closed her eyes. Good. Inside the room, Victor heard it too. He turned to Noah. Your grandmother raised you well, Noah said. She is still raising me. For the first time that night, Victor almost smiled without arrogance. Good. Then his face became serious again. I made a public promise. Noah did not answer. $1 million, Victor said. Evelyn lifted a hand. Mr. Langford, do not turn apology into another performance. Victor nodded slowly. You are right. He looked at Noah. I will not ask you to decide tonight. I will not hand you money in front of cameras. I will not buy forgiveness. But the promise stands, and tomorrow, when you and your grandmother are ready, I want to ask how that money can repair more than my pride. Noah looked at Evelyn. Evelyn looked back at him. Then Noah said quietly, People in my neighborhood hurt for months before anyone listens. Victor listened. Noah continued, If the money is real, maybe it should help them be heard sooner. Victor did not speak. That was not refusal. It was the sound of a man finally understanding that the boy he mocked had not been dreaming of a reward. He had been dreaming of care. Outside, police lights flashed red and blue against the windows of the Meridian Grand. Inside, the chandelier light fell over broken glass, sealed evidence bags, a forgotten silver cane, and a brown notebook in the hands of a boy everyone had underestimated. The reveal was complete, but the reckoning had only begun. The reveal was complete, but the reckoning had only begun. At 11:18 that night, the St. Aurelia Hope Gala officially ended without music, dessert, or the final donor pledge. No one complained loudly. Not after seeing Victor Langford carried from the ballroom. Not after seeing Martin Vale taken down the corridor by police. Not after hearing that a boy they had laughed at had noticed the patch, the water, the pouch, and the hidden phone before the adults with titles could agree on what was happening. The Meridian Grand staff cleared the ballroom in silence. A worker picked up the silver cane from under table 4 and placed it in a clear property bag. Another worker mopped the last line of mineral water from the marble floor. The white flowers still stood on every table, expensive and useless. Noah Carter sat in a quiet waiting room beside Evelyn, holding his brown notebook with both hands. His shoulders had started to shake now that the danger had slowed down. Evelyn noticed. Come here, baby. Noah leaned into her side. Only then did he cry. Not loudly, not like a hero, like a 12-year-old boy who had been mocked, ignored, trusted, watched, and made important all in one night. I was scared, he whispered. Evelyn held him. I know. What if I had been wrong? Then we would have corrected what we could. But you did what I taught you. You said what you saw. You did not pretend to know what you did not know. Noah wiped his face with his sleeve. Everyone kept looking at me. Evelyn kissed the top of his head. People look hard when the truth comes from somewhere they did not respect. Across the hall, Victor lay in the medical suite under observation. Rebecca sat beside him. Dr. Price had ordered blood work, toxicology screening, and a complete medication reconciliation by an independent hospital pharmacist. Diane Brooks from compliance had locked the incident file under number SAMF 0871. The evidence list had grown. The patch, the water sample, the amber bottle, the sealed patch packets, the altered schedule, the capacity review note, the hidden phone, the email from Graham Ellis, the camera footage, the witness statements. By midnight, Langford Holdings had frozen Graham Ellis board access. Outside counsel preserved all files connected to the attempted authority transfer. The State Securities Unit was notified. The hospital opened a physician conduct review into Dr. Price's failure to verify medication inputs. Nothing was solved. But the cover was gone. That matters. Harm often survives because it stays neat, it wears badges, it uses calendar invites, it hides inside words like care, stability, protection, and procedure. That night, the neat words broke. At 12:27, Rebecca brought Victor wheelchair to the waiting room. Dr. Price did not want him moving yet, but Victor insisted on speaking to Noah before leaving for overnight monitoring. He looked smaller now without his tuxedo jacket, without the cane, without Martin standing behind him with a schedule in his hand. Rebecca pushed him in slowly. Noah stood at once. Victor lifted a weak hand. "Please sit." Noah sat, but his back stayed straight. Victor looked at Evelyn first. "Miss Carter, I owe you an apology," Evelyn said. "You owe my grandson one first." Victor nodded. "Yes." He turned to Noah. "Noah Carter, I humiliated you in a public room. I used money like a weapon. I treated your knowledge like a joke because it came from a child I had already judged by his age, clothes, and place in that room." Noah looked down at his notebook. Victor continued, "You warned me not to drink. I drank because I wanted to prove you small. Then you helped me anyway." Noah's voice was quiet. "You were hurting." Victor shut his eyes for a moment. "Yes, and I thought pain gave me permission to be cruel." Evelyn said, "Pain explains many things. It excuses fewer than people hope." Victor accepted that. He looked at Noah again. "I promised $1 million. I will keep that promise, but I will not hand it to you like a prize for saving a rich man. That would make the same mistake in a cleaner suit." Noah looked up. "Then what will you do?" Victor asked. "What do you think should happen?" Rebecca watched her father carefully. The old Victor would never have asked a poor child what should happen to his money. Noah looked at Evelyn. She gave him no answer, only trust. He opened his notebook to the page where he had written Evelyn's sentence. "Healing begins when someone finally listens." Then he said, "In our neighborhood, people wait until pain is too big because they think no one will listen early. They miss therapy because buses are late. They skip medicine because food costs money. They do not ask questions because doctors sound busy. Maybe the money should make a place where people can be heard before they fall." Victor did not speak for a long time. "Evelyn Carter Community Healing Center," he said finally. Evelyn frowned. "Do not name things after me to make yourself feel forgiven." Victor almost smiled, but stopped. "Then help design it so it deserves your name." That answer surprised her. Noah looked at his grandmother. Evelyn was quiet. Then she said, "A center cannot be a stage. Agreed. It cannot sell miracles. Agreed. It cannot tell poor people to be grateful before they are treated. Agreed. It must use licensed professionals, physical therapists, nurses, doctors, community health workers, social workers, people who respect evidence." Victor nodded, "And it must listen to caregivers, patients, children, and elders before deciding they know nothing." Dr. Price entered quietly and heard that line. He looked down. Evelyn saw him. "Doctor, you should be part of that rule." He nodded. "I should." The next morning, at 9:30, Langford Holdings held an emergency board session. Victor attended by secure video from the hospital. Rebecca sat beside him. Patricia Wren led the legal review. Graham Ellis was suspended from all committee duties pending investigation. His document access remained frozen. The attempted capacity review was canceled. The forged medical summary draft was sent to outside counsel, hospital compliance, police, and corporate fraud investigators. Martin Vale was charged after preliminary evidence showed medication tampering, attempted evidence destruction, and coordination with Graham Ellis to influence corporate control. Further charges would depend on lab results and financial records. Victor listened to the entire report without interrupting. That alone shocked the board. When Graham tried to speak, Victor stopped him with one sentence. "You do not get to call betrayal governance." By noon, St. Aurelia Medical Foundation issued a statement. Not a polished victory story, a factual one. During the Hope Gala, a medical emergency involving donor Victor Langford revealed possible medication tampering and failures in verification protocol. A minor guest, Noah Carter, reported key observations that helped medical staff identify an unapproved medication patch and preserve evidence. St. Aurelia is cooperating with law enforcement, compliance, and independent review. We will not release images or personal details of Noah Carter or Evelyn Carter for publicity. Rebecca insisted on that last line. So did Evelyn. Noah was not a mascot. He was a child. Dr. Price requested to speak at the internal review. He stood before hospital leadership 2 days later in conference room 6B, with his notes shaking in his hand. I allowed a private assistant to become my shortcut, he said. I trusted neat summaries over direct verification. I dismissed a child because he had no title. That was a clinical failure and a human failure. No one clapped. No one should have. Accountability is not a performance. Dr. Price was placed under supervised practice review for 90 days. He also helped create a new St. Aurelia protocol requiring independent medication verification for high-risk private patients at hospital events, clear documentation for all outside supplements, and formal intake of caregiver observations during emergencies. He sent Evelyn a copy of the draft. She returned it with red notes in the margin. Less pride. Clearer language. Ask patients who handles their medicine. Ask who benefits if they get worse. Dr. Price kept every note. 3 months later, the Evelyn Carter Community Healing Center opened on Auburn Avenue in Atlanta in a renovated brick building that had once been a closed urgent care office. The sign was simple. The waiting room had blue chairs, a water station, a play corner, and a wall painted with warm yellow light. No chandeliers, no marble, no donor table, just people. The $1 million became the first protected fund. Victor added more later, but Evelyn made sure the first promise was written clearly. No naming rights without community oversight, no publicity using patient faces without consent, no miracle claims, no care denied because someone could not pay. The center offered physical therapy screenings, posture and mobility checks, medication safety education, fall prevention classes, pain management referrals, caregiver training, and free monthly clinics with St. Aurelia nurses and volunteer physicians. Noah did not run the center. He was 12. Evelyn made sure everyone remembered that. He helped at the front desk on Saturdays by passing water cups, sharpening pencils, and giving people intake forms. Sometimes he noticed things. A man gripping his hip while saying his back was fine. A grandmother breathing shallowly while claiming she was only tired. A warehouse worker hiding a shaking hand because he feared losing work. When Noah noticed, he did what Evelyn taught him. He asked permission. May I tell Miss Carter what I saw? That was all. No magic, no performance, no child turned into a cure. One Saturday morning, Victor visited the center with Rebecca. He walked slowly, using a plain black cane now, not the silver one. The silver cane remained in an evidence locker until the case closed. He said he didn't want it back. Noah saw him near the entrance. For one moment, the old ballroom returned in his mind. Heal me then. $1 million. The laughter, the glass breaking. Then Victor removed his hat and lowered his head slightly. Good morning, Noah. Good morning, Mr. Langford. Victor looked around the room. This is better than the wing with my name on it, Noah said. It listens better. Victor nodded. Yes, it does. A construction worker named Jerome came in that day with shoulder pain and no insurance. He stood near the desk, embarrassed. I do not know if I'm in the right place, he said. Noah handed him a form. If you are hurting, this is a good place to start. Jerome looked at Victor, recognized him, and almost stepped back. Victor noticed. The old Victor would have enjoyed that kind of recognition. This Victor moved aside and pointed to the chairs. Please, you were here before me. Rebecca smiled. Evelyn watched from across the room and said nothing. Some lessons are only real when no one is forcing them. 6 months later, Martin Vale pleaded guilty to several charges tied to evidence tampering and conspiracy to commit financial fraud. Graham Ellis was removed from the board and later faced civil and criminal proceedings. Langford Holdings created an independent medical decision firewall, so no executive assistant, board member, or financial officer could control health summaries used in authority decisions without direct physician and family verification. Rebecca became chair of the Ethics and Oversight Committee. Victor remained wealthy. He remained difficult sometimes. Change did not make him gentle overnight, but he learned to pause. He learned to ask Rebecca what she saw. He learned to let Dr. Price answer without Martin filtering the question. And once a month, he sat in the back room of the Evelyn Carter Community Healing Center while people from the neighborhood described the moment they realized someone had finally listened. He did not speak first. That was progress. One evening, after the center closed, Noah taped a small printed sign to the wall near the intake desk. Evelyn watched him smooth the corners. The sign said, "Healing begins when someone finally listens." Victor stood in the doorway and read it. Your grandmother said that. Noah nodded. She says it all the time. Victor looked at Evelyn. It saved my life. Evelyn shook her head. No, listening saved your life. The sentence only reminded somebody to do it. Noah smiled. That sounded exactly like her. The final scene did not happen in a ballroom. It happened on a rainy Tuesday at 5:40 in the evening. A tired mother entered the center carrying a little boy whose legs hurt after a playground fall. She apologized 3 times before reaching the desk. I am sorry. I do not have the right insurance. I just did not know where else to go. Noah looked at the child, then at the mother, then at Evelyn. Evelyn nodded. Noah handed the woman a clipboard and said, You do not have to be rich to be heard here. The mother covered her mouth. The little boy stopped crying long enough to look at Noah's notebook. Are you a doctor? Noah smiled. No, I'm a person who notices. The doctors and therapists are inside. The mother laughed through tears. Victor heard it from the hallway. He stopped walking. That was the sound he had not understood before. Not praise, not power, relief. The sound of someone reaching help before pain became disaster. Later that night, Noah sat beside Evelyn on the bus ride home. The city lights moved across the window. His notebook rested on his lap. Evelyn looked at him. You did good today. Noah leaned against her shoulder. We did good. She smiled. Better answer. He looked out at the rain. Do you think Mr. Langford is good now? Evelyn thought before answering. People are not made good by one apology. They are made honest by what they keep doing after the apology stops feeling dramatic. Noah wrote that down because he knew he would need it, and maybe the world would too. So if this story made you think of someone whose pain was ignored because they were poor, young, black, old, uninsured, or simply not powerful enough to be believed, write their name in the comments. If you have ever seen a person with no title notice the truth while people with authority looked away, share this story. And if you believe healing should begin before someone collapses, before money enters the room, before pride gets the final word, subscribe for more stories where the overlooked are finally heard, the powerful are held accountable, and justice begins when one person refuses to stay silent, because Victor Langford thought $1 million made him untouchable. Martin Vale thought care was the perfect mask. Dr. Price thought credentials meant he could stop listening. And the whole room thought Noah Carter was only a poor boy with a notebook. But Noah did not need a miracle. He had something the room had forgotten. He had patience. He had his grandmother lessons. He had eyes that did not look away. And when a millionaire laughed at him and said, "Heal me," Noah did not heal his pride. He exposed the poison hiding behind it. That is the truth. Evelyn Carter had known all along. Healing does not begin with power. It begins when someone finally listens.